16th of December. Today's special breakfast and class, thank you, graciously sponsored by Elliot and Isaac Braha, La'ilui Nishmat, their beloved mother, Yvette Bat Bahie Alea Shalom. Additionally, today's class, graciously dedicated by my family and I, La'ilui Nishmat, my dear father-in-law, Menachem Ben Belina Alav Shalom, Iratzon, that to the words of Torah, his neshama and their neshama have an aliyah in Gan Eden. Amen. For the live audience watching via itorah.com, Be'ezat Hashem, at 11 o'clock today, we're going to have the special ladies classes on Pirkei Avot dedicated by the Dweck family, Le'ilui Nishmat, their beloved son, Ishai Jesse Dweck, Alav Shalom. So at this moment, as I said yesterday, Le'ilui Nishmat David Ben Mas'uda, שנפטר כהיום הזה, Alav Shalom, also his neshama and aliyah in Gan Eden, same way as the young man that I mentioned before. As I mentioned yesterday, today we are welcoming a great rabbi from the community of Brooklyn, a dear friend of mine for many, many, many years, Rabbi Joey Mizrahi, that is in South Florida just for a couple of days, visiting family, and obviously who can escape the temptation of coming to Florida, 72 degrees, right, Rabbi? And windy, but nothing to do with the weather in Brooklyn, I believe, correct? So I'm going to do something that I usually don't do at this hour, to stay quiet at this moment, and I'm going to give the mic over to the great rabbi to inspire us, as he always does, with great words of Torah. I'll take the opportunity also to bless the great rabbi on the continuous success on the leadership of Congregation Bnei Ishak, right, in Brooklyn, as well as other community projects and schools that the great rabbi is involved with. So we bless him with the famous pasuk of the Tehillim that says, Yelechu mehail el hail. May he continue from strength to strength. I definitely do remember vividly his legendary grandfather, Mr. Morris Mizrahi. Hashem gives him arichut yamim b'shanim tovot, and longevity and health. And his father-in-law, Rabbi Haber Alav Shalom, Rabbi Michael Haber, right? Menachem Ben Hana Alav Shalom, which I knew personally for many, many years, and actually spent this Shabbat morning with the rabbi, even though he's gone from the world. Why? Ask me how. I was reading from his books. That's it. The Gemara writes that when you read books of Hachamim, books of Tzaddikim, you learn Tehillim, you say the name of the Tzaddikim in the Gemara or writings that they do. The Pasuk says in Shir HaShirim, Dobev Sifteh Yeshenim, the movement, the murmuring of the lips of those that they are sleeping, Siftotav Dobebot Bakever. So I do remember the great rabbi that Hashem, I have no doubt, that has a good spot for him in Gan Eden. But it was interesting that I spent, I don't want to say how many hours, but at least an hour and change, reading some of his fascinating halakha books that he wrote throughout his lifetime. So Be'ezat Hashem, also his neshama have an aliyah in Gan Eden. Amen. Rabbi, you're welcome to get closer to me. Feel free to reach out. I don't, it's fine. Freddie, can you move the mic to the rabbi? Rabbi, I'm going to give you this mic.
On vacation, not just for the occasion. Rabbi, you're good. I don't even know how to wear this, Rabbi. How do you know how to do this?
How do you work it? What you
Like this.
Are you good?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay. So, thank you, Rabbi, for welcoming us to South Florida. I feel like a VIP with this mic. But really, Kahal Kadosh, it's really a zechut to see everyone. Being that I'm on vacation, so I'll share Divrei Torah from last week's parasha. It's still Monday. The Gemara says that Sunday, Monday, Tuesday are Batar Shabta, still considered after Shabbat and connected to the previous week. So I'd like to share something that travels through a few parashiot about the life of Yaacov Avinu. Yaacov Avinu is traveling from Eretz Yisrael to Chutz La'aretz, and he goes to sleep. Vayifka b'makon vayal sham ki b'hashemesh. And the pasuk says that in that place, Vayahalom v'hine sulam mutzav arsa, v'rosho magia hashamayma, v'hine malache Elohim olim v'yoredim bo. He sees angels going up Angels going down. The Rashi says the angels of Eretz Yisrael were going up. The angels of Chutz La'aretz are coming down. This seems to be a geographical phenomenon, that it's Malachim who are in Eretz Yisrael do not go to Chutz La'aretz, so they're going up, and the new Malachim, a changing of the guard, are now coming to escort him to Chutz La'aretz. However, there's much more than that. And what's more than that is the Malachim of Eretz Yisrael are Malachim of Kodesh. The Malachim of Chutz La'aretz are more mundane, Malachim of Hol. And Yaakov, until now, was involved in Kodesh, and from now on, he's going to be involved in Hol. And what that means is that until now, Yaakov in his life was an Ish Tam, Yoshev Halim. That's all he did was study Torah for the first 63 years of his life. That's all we know about Yaakov. His biography is very terse, it's very short. We only know about him that he studied Torah all day, and when he was 15, he sport the Bechor for a pot of soup. But all we know, Ish Tam Yoshev Halim. Now his father calls him in to get the berachot. Mother, summons him in. Go inside to daddy and get the berachot. Initially, Yitzchak wanted to give the berachot to Esav. Rivka says, you got to go in. And he gets the berachot. From the moment he gets the berachot, his life shifts from being an Ish Tam Yoshev Halim, and now he becomes a working man. So what exactly was it in the berachot that changed the role of Yaakov Avinu from a kolel person, from a Yisachar, to now a Zebulun? I'd like to add that Yitzchak Avinu intended to give the berachot to Esav. The commentators grapple with this. Why would Yitzchak want to give the berachot to Esav? To say that Yitzchak did not know what was going on is not doing justice to Yitzchak Avinu. He was old, he was blind, he was lying in bed. Of course Yitzchak knew what he was doing. What exactly did Yitzchak intend? The Gemara says in Masechet Berachot, Af Lamed He, it's a mahloket Rabbi Yishmael, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. What should a person be doing in life? Rabbi Yishmael says, Ve'asavta deganecha. Person should be working in life. That's the role of a person. You go to work and you study Torah. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai says, if you're going to go to work, when you're going to study Torah, you're always going to be busy. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai says that really the ideal is a person studies Torah all day. This was the life of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. He was in a cave, studied Torah full time. Rabbi Yishmael, work and learn. And Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, learn full time. The Gemara says, what's the resolution to this mahloket? What do we do? Are we supposed to follow Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai and learn all day? Or follow Rabbi Yishmael and work and learn? So the Gemara responds as follows. Harbe asu ki Rabbi Yishmael ve'alta biyadan. Many people did like Rabbi Yishmael successfully. And like Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, unsuccessfully. Explains the Mishnah Berurah, the Hafetz Chaim in his Sefer Biur Halacha, that many people tried it and it didn't work. But for the minority of people, it's a good system. But for the vast majority of people, the system is you work and learn. Now, if you look throughout Jewish history, that was always the system. There were a small group of people, a minority who learned all day, and there were a majority of people who work and learn. Yitzchak looks at the future of the Jewish people, and he sees that I am going to now appoint one of my two sons to be an Av. It's either going to be Abraham Yitzchak Esav or Abraham Yitzchak Yaakov. And he says Esav, because he's a working man, he could be the Av for the vast majority of his descendants. Whereas Yaakov Abinu, who learns all day, Yaakov Tam Yoshev Alim, he can only be an Av for the minority. And I'd rather have an Av for the majority than an Av for the minority. Now, Yitzchak was banking on Esav doing teshubah. If he could do teshubah, he works and learns, and he could inspire the worker, he could inspire the learner. Yaakov Abinu Ish Tam Yoshev Alim. How is he going to be an inspiration for the person who learns all day? What happens? Rivka says, no, I argue, I disagree. Yaakov, you go in and get the berachot. Now, Yitzchak intended to give the berachot to an Ish Sadeh, because Esav, Ish Yodei Atzaid, Ish Sadeh. You want to see the greatness of Yitzchak Avinu? He was 100% right. The berachot were intended for an Ish Sadeh. What happens the moment Yaakov Avinu gets the berachot? His life is transformed and he becomes an Ish Sadeh. Yaakov now has to go to work for Lavan for the next 20 years. And the rabbis explain is because Yitzchak was 100% right. Yitzchak knew that the Av has to be able to inspire not only the Ishtam Yosheb Ohalim, but he has to be able to inspire the Ish Sadeh, the man in the field, the man working, the man who's walking the pavement of Manhattan or Miami. Where do we go? Aventura, South Florida, 72 degrees. Miami Beach. And Yaakov Avinu now has to change his persona because he now becomes an inspiration for the working man. You look at Rambam says all the halachot of how to be a worker we learn from Yaakov Avinu. Yaakov says to Lavan, Hayiti bayom achalani horef. It was in the day and I was very hot. V'kerach balayla. I was very cold at night. But tidar shenati be'inai. And I withheld sleep from my eyes. Zeli 20 shana bebetecha. You never saw a sheep that was eaten by animals because I took care of them. Yaakov Avinu masters the art of being a worker. That means for the first 63 years of Yaakov's life, he mastered the art of being Yisachar. For the next 20 years of his life, he mastered being Zebulun. And now Yaakov is a paradigm, a quintessential Av, because he's an Av both for the Yisachar, and now he becomes an Av also for the Zebulun. Now what happens is when Yaakov is leaving Eretz Yisrael, it's very ironic, because in Eretz Yisrael, the Makom of Kodesh, Yaakov, his life, his whole being is of Kodesh, Ishtam Yoshebu Alim. So now Yaakov is going to Chutz La'aretz, and he's now going to get involved in Hol. Now it would almost appear like, oh Yaakov, you're in Israel, and you're following the right path. Also, now you're leaving Israel, and you're losing some of your luster. You're going now to Chutz La'aretz, and the Malachim of Eretz Yisrael want no part of this. We're out. We are Malachim of Kodesh. Yaakov Avinu, what happened to you? Now you're going to live a life of Hol? We're out. And they run up the ladder, and they want no part of this new Yaakov Avinu. And the Malachim of Chutz La'aretz, who are the mundane angels, they come down. However, watch what happens after 20 years. 20 years later, Yaakov famously says, Im Laban Garti. One of the most famous Rashis in Humash. Rashi says, Im Laban Garti, v'taryag mitzvot shamarti. That means Yaakov did not let up at all in Chutz La'aretz, even though now he's involved in work and hol, but that doesn't change him at all. He's a master at the halachot of being a worker, and he keeps following the 613 mitzvot, and now Yaakov comes back, and there was no let up. Not only did Yaakov not lose, but he grew in another aspect of his Avodat Hashem. He's a better person than when he left. On the way in, there were two sets of angels. These are going up, these are going down, and they want nothing to do with each other. Because the angels of Kodesh and the angels of Hol are not best friends. But the Pasuk says, as Yaakov returns back, he sees angels. Pasuk says, "V'Yaakov alach ledarko, vayifge'u bo malachei Elohim." Rashi says, who were these angels? It's now another changing of the guards. It's the angels of Chutz La'aretz, it's the angels of Eretz Yisrael. But listen to what Yaakov says. Vayomed Yaakov kasher ra'am mahane Elohim zeh. Now the Pasuk doesn't tell us which set of angels Yaakov says Mahane Elohim Zeh. And you know which angels he's talking to? He's talking to both. Because Yaakov transformed the angels of Hol into angels of Kodesh. And the Pasuk says, Vayikra Shem HaMakom Hahu Mahanayim. Because both angels are here right now. Prior to this, 20 years ago, Yaakov, as the angels of Kodesh, running up the ladder. They want nothing to do with the new Yaakov Avinu. They want nothing to do with the angels of Hol. They are my enemy. The angels of Kodesh are running up. The angels of Hol are coming down. Bezor, they pass each other in the air. And now, after 20 years, Yaakov bridged the gap. The angels of Kodesh, the angels of Hol are the same. Mahane Elohim Zeh. They're both Mahane Elohim. And he calls HaMakom Hahu Mahanaim. They're arm in arm. They're singing, they're dancing. The goal of life is that there should not be two of us. It should not be our Kodesh and our Hol. You know, I was once in Shul, and I saw a guy in Shul. He learns, he gives charities, just special guy. And I turned to someone, I said, you know, this guy's such a Sadiq. He said, if you saw the person in the office, you wouldn't call him a Sadiq. So we're not okay with Lashon Hara. But a person is defined not by how they are by Kodesh, but how they are by Hol. You know, some people, their Kodesh is not Kodesh. Those are the people, they come to shul, they talk the entire time. I don't know if that happens here, but sometimes in Brooklyn, it's a thing in Brooklyn. Right. People are more relaxed in South Florida. No double parking. They let you go. You know, you're driving. They let you go. Some people, their Kodesh is not Kodesh. Some people, their Kodesh is Kodesh, but their Hol is Hol. And some people, their Kodesh is Kodesh, and their Hol is Kodesh. They go to work. They set a good example. They're generous. They help the junior members of their company. They want to lift people up. They're not hogging everything for themselves. They look to help people. They look to live a life of a good example. Those people have turned the Malachim of Hol into Malachim of Kodesh. But there's one more Hidush here. You know, until 63 years old, the system was Yaakov was 100% Kodesh and no Hol. Esav is Hol and no Kodesh. And they never saw a system where you can do both. So Yaakov is all Kodesh, Esav is all Hol. Now I'd like to pose a question. Imagine you go to your children or the youth of the community and you'd say, you know, there's two paths in life, the path of Kodesh, the path of Hol, and you have to choose one. So they say, okay, give me the choices. The path of Hol is you do whatever you want, you make a lot of money, you're successful, no Kodesh. And the path of Kodesh is you have to eat a little bit of bread, drink water, sleep on the floor, really like the Mishnah Pirkei Avot describes it. Pat Pamelach Tohal. And you tell the people, you know what it means to be religious? You can't have any of this world, no vacations, no enjoyment. It's a life of suffering and a life of deprivation, ripped clothing. How many people do you think would sign up for that? Very few. And it could be that that's why Esav did not sign up for that, because he never saw a model that you could have Kodesh and Hol. After 20 years in the house of Lavan, Yaakov learned a new system. That system is not a system of only Kodesh, but of taking the Hol and turning it into Kodesh. Now Yaakov sends a message to Esav. Im Laban Garti, v'taryag mitzvot shamarti. Ask the rabbis, why is it relevant to Esav that Yaakov kept the 613 mitzvot? Why does Esav need to know this? So simply because Yaakov is telling Esav, you're not going to be able to defeat me, because Yitzchak told Esav, but I did not tarid, I did not lose my level, you're not going to be able to defeat me. But I thought maybe another idea. The Midrash says that Yaakov should not have awakened a sleeping giant with Esav. Esav was on his own way. You didn't have to send him a message. Just should have circumvented him. But it could be Yaakov is seeking out Esav because Yaakov is trying to be Mekarev Esav. He says, Esav, I see the path you took in life. You want to be an Ish Sadeh. And you thought that being an Ish Sadeh means that you cannot have any spirituality. Esav, I'm here today to tell you that I am also an Ish Sadeh. Until now in my life, I was an Ish Tam Yoshev Alim. I too became an Ish Sadeh. And I'm here to inform you and teach you that you can do both. It's not Olam Hazeh or Olam Haba. Esav, you could have Olam Hazeh and Olam Haba. And that's the lesson of Yaakov to Esav. Esav, you never knew that. You thought you had to choose one of the two. And many people, if they had to choose one of the two, are going to pick the path of Olam Hazeh. Yaakov says, Esav, I learned something in the last 20 years. I learned that it's not A or B, but it could be A and B. And of course, Esav does not heed the message. But really, if you think about this, we have two types of korbanot. A korban olah and a korban shelamim. Korban olah is kulo LaHashem. Everything is given to Hashem. The Kohanim don't get anything. The owners don't get a piece of meat. Some people live their life like a korban olah. Everything to Hashem. Those people deserve to be praised, deserve to be commended, they deserve to be honored. Someone who lives their entire life for God and does not take anything for themselves, what an unbelievable life. Yaakov until age 63. But some people, the vast majority of people, are going to live their life like a korban shelamim. Shelamim is shalom. Shelamim is shlemut, completion. Hashem gets a piece, the Kohanim get a piece, the owner gets a piece. For the first 63 years of Yaakov Avinu's life, he lived his life like a korban olah. For the last 20 years, he taught his descendants how to live like a korban shelamim. So whatever path you choose in life, You want to choose a path of a Korban Olah, you have Yaakov Avinu as a role model. That's studying Torah all day and not getting involved in this world. You know, there was a great story with the great sage Rabbi Yashiv. We were zocher to see him in Israel a few times. They go to Rabbi Yashiv, they ask him, are you allowed to play basketball on Shabbat? So he says, they ask him in Hebrew, Kadur Sal. He says, Mazeh Kadur Sal, what's basketball? He says, well, you take a ball and you put it in a basket. So the rabbi says, so I don't understand, why do you have to take the ball and put it in the basket on Shabbat? Just take the ball, put it in the basket before Shabbat. So the point is, the rabbi was living life having no idea what Kadur Sal was. I heard a story from my rabbi, Rabbi Hillel Haber, that the son of Reb Chaim Kanievsky came to visit Brooklyn, and he brought him to Sha'arei Torah, and he showed him the Beit Midrash. The rabbi was very impressed, showed him the classrooms, very impressed. Then he brings him down to the gymnasium, where we played a lot of basketball. And the rabbi, as a joke, he says, this is the most important room in the entire building. The rabbi looks around, he says, Mazeh? He had no idea what a gymnasium was. There are some people who live their life like a Korban Olah. What an unbelievable way to live. It's not for the vast majority of people. That is the system Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. Most people cannot do it. Yaakov Avinu inspired his descendants to be a Korban Olah. If you want to be a Korban Olah, you have Yaakov as your role model. But for the 99% of people who are not going to live their lives like a Korban Olah, they're going to live their lives like a Korban Shilamim. I work, I learn, I come to Minyan, I come to class, I go to the office, I come home, I pray 3 times a day, I'm honest in my business, I turn my chol into kodesh, but I balance my life. It's not or, but it's and. To those people, Yaakov Avinu for the next 20 years is their inspiration. Because Yaakov showed you can do it both. And that's why when Yaakov comes back from the house of Lavan, he fights with the angel of Esav, and the pasuk says, Vayizrach lo hashemesh, and the next pasuk, Vayavo Yaakov Shalem, because it was now that Yaakov, he developed this new idea of being a Korban Shalamim. Until now, Yaakov lived like a Korban Olah, and he would inspire the Korban Olahs. So any Korban Olah you see in our generation was inspired by Yaakov Avinu for the first 63 years. And when you see someone who comes to shul early, they learn, they pray, they go to work, they're honest, they're meticulously honest in business, they give a lot of charity, they act as a Kiddush Hashem, they do a lot of chesed throughout their business, and they learn Torah, and they turn their whole into Kodesh, those people were also inspired by Yaakov Avinu in the next 20 years. And that's the Korban Shelamim of Yaakov, Vayavo Yaakov Shalem. And prior to the 20 years, the angels didn't get along. But after the 20 years, the angels are now best friends. And Vayikra Hashem HaMakom Hahu Mahanaim, because both sets of angels are together. And the goal is that if you could do integration, you could have 2 sets of angels in your life that are not separate. You don't have 2 lanes in your life, but my 2 lanes converge into one. Rabbi, thank you. Thank you. The Rabbi, thank you. Thank you, Rabbi.
Okay, I know that there is an unanimous question. When are you coming back on vacation?
Thank you. So I was supposed to be here, but
Please, Rabbi, you don't need an invitation. Literally, what I said about reading his father-in-law's book, I was not aware that the great rabbi was coming to Miami. I only saw him last night in Shul. And Shem worked Divine Providence. So I will tell you that your Torah rabbi, I think that it resonated beautifully, because sometimes people have this mindset or misconception that if you are a Kollel student, you're missing out your life. And if you are a working man, you can never bring godliness, which this is something that the rabbi illustrated so beautiful, that the mission of the Yehudi, I'll finish the class because I think that we had a mega class with a great rabbi now, but I'll finish with a closing statement that I think that the concluding statement of the rabbi is that the Yehudi's mission is, like the Baal Shem Tov says, we mix both aspects of life, the spiritual aspect of life, and from the physical, we turn it into spiritual. You take money, you give tzedakah. You go to work, nasata v'natata ve'emuna. You pay your salaries on time, like the Pelei Yoesef. A person, right, a person can be working, and following the Shulchan Aruch. You pay your salaries on time. You don't work on Shabbat. You're honest in business. You don't use vulgarity of foul language. The story that the rabbi said, I have a handful of people who are part of that story. At the synagogue, they are one way. Once they come to the world of business, you have to do tevilah to the mouth. You have to go to the mikveh and open the mouth to purify the vocabulary that they use. You know, the Hafiz Haim writes, sometimes people wonder, I'm praying, and he's not reaching not the ceiling, forget about the ceiling, even the chandelier. Hafiz Haim says, of course, if your mouth is contaminated by lying, lashon hara, non-kosher food, profanity, vulgarity, your tefillah becomes contaminated. So, B'ezrat Hashem, we wish the great Rabbi, great Rakan Aslaha. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. בשורות טובות. Thank you. רבי חנניה בן הקשיא אומר, רצה הקדוש ברוך הוא לזכות את ישראל. לפיכך, ועליהן תורה מצוות שנאמר, החפץ למען צדקו,